Hello and welcome. Very good evening to all of you. Thanks for tuning in to Nation Now. I'm Afrida Rahman Ali. We're taking up a very important critical issue that this country is faced with today. There are around 25 deaths due to mob lynching caused simply by rumor mongering this year alone. And this does not even include the cow vigilantism cases. So is there a general sense of angst in society today? Are people bitter? Are they hostile that it takes practically nothing to trigger a murderous mob? Just a small rumor can galvanize mob frenzy today. People are looking for instant justice. Have they lost faith in the system that they feel the need now to fend for themselves because there is nobody else who will look after their interest? Or is it the proliferation of instant messaging that is now widespread due to the growing penetration of smartphone usage in this country? To address all these questions, I have a very enlightened group of guests with me. We will talk about all that. I have Sanam Suthirat Wazir, human rights activist, joining me from Delhi. Karnika Seth, cyber law expert, joining me again from Delhi. Brijesh Singh, IG of cybercrime in Maharashtra. But before I go across to my guests, let's listen in to this very important report.
One killed, 2 injured as a mob strikes in Bidar in Karnataka this time, resorting to violence on mere suspicion of kidnapping. The 32-year-old man from Hyderabad was lynched over WhatsApp-driven rumors of child lifting. 4 others were also attacked, but police managed to save them. The men, travelling in a red Maruti Swift, met with an accident after the locals chased them on motorcycles. The group had gone there on a picnic and stopped over at a school to distribute chocolates to students. That's when the villagers chased the victims. Cops have now detained 30 villagers. WhatsApp group admin Manoj and the person who made the fake post have also been arrested.
This is the 8th case which has been reported from Karnataka, and this is only because of the fake WhatsApp message that have been doing the rounds about child lifting is what we're given to understand. So the latest case also that we are picking up is this particular person where he lost his life only due to mob lynching, and he was also traveling with 2 of his friends in the car, and we are being told that this particular person, the deceased, identified as Manoj Kumar, he was distributing especially chocolates and roses to girls at a college. This is in Bidar district, and also the residents and also passers-by in fact mistook him for being a child lifter. And also remember how the trend has set in, especially a very dangerous trend that has set in here in Karnataka. And taking that into consideration, we see that the mob, in fact, they also chased this particular car. They toppled the car and they also pulled all the 3 men from this vehicle, where they lynched one particular person identified as Manoj Kumar.
Complaints that child lifting is happening even earlier also in Bidar district, Gulbarga district, all those places. This was quite common, and that is why police also is looking at it very seriously, and public have reacted to that. We are looking at it. We will see what action we have to take.
2018 has seen significant number of such mob lynchings from Karnataka to Uttar Pradesh, Tamil Nadu, Assam and Maharashtra. The common link: locals resorted to violence on the basis of rumors and fake news. In these series of incidents, fake messages have played a vital role that has led to murderous mob lynchings. Has a mere suspicion become a new norm to kill people? Why is India turning into an angry mob? The debate begins.
Right. So I would like to go across to my panelists and understand that as a society, what can we do to restrict this social malady, this disease literally, that has now infested various parts of the country? Tiruvannamalai in Tamil Nadu, Karbi Anglong in Assam, Bidar in Karnataka. The pattern is so similar. Sanam Suthirat Wazir, human rights activist, joining us. Good evening to you. I want to ask you, in a situation like this, it is obviously something that the entire society has to deal with. We cannot just shift responsibility to one particular agency and say, well, let the police handle. And when we talk about human rights, the rights of the victim in cases like this, justice never gets delivered to them. Because, you know, in a case of riot or in a case of mob violence, because of the sheer number of people involved, convictions are rare.
That's absolutely right. I would actually, you know, bring it from the point. I think, be it a communal violence, riot, or mob lynching, I think it's foolish to say that they are spontaneous, because none of they are spontaneous. It's basically a systematic incitement of violence. And the one incident has been used to downplay the other incident. Until unless, you see, there is a tacit approval of state why all of these things are happening. I mean, let's go back into the history. If we say that what happened in 1984, like 3,000 Sikhs were killed in Delhi itself. And then few days after that, the Prime Minister itself says, when the mighty tree falls, the earth shakes. Similarly, when we come back to 2015 in a Clark's incident, when that happened, for the 1 week, Prime Minister did not say anything. And once, you know, after a week, when a tweet came in, and that tweet was like, it happened because, you know, people were angry because of cow slaughter, or for that matter, very garlanding the people who are involved in mob lynching. I think this basically promotes the trend, and this also tells people that, okay, there is a free hand. There's a free hand for you if you do these things. But impunity, especially in all these cases, have made mockery of justice.
Right. So you believe that the government must really wake up to the situation and take up the issue in right earnest. There is a lack of policy here. Karnika Seth, do you agree? What do we have in terms of law, and how effective is it?
Well, when it comes to law, we do have a section 154A dealing with a lot of 153A, sorry, dealing with you know, anything which you put on the web which has you know, relates to any communal violence, or it could enrage people to lead into a situation which goes out of the law and order control. Now those are situations, but then is that alone simply enough is the question today, because I strongly feel there is a need for the express law. You really need in this present day and scenario a very strict and stringent law which deals with fake news in particular. And the IT Act itself is not got any express provision in there which would deal with this situation. Before you know, the Shreyas Singhal case, when the 66A was present as a section, we still had certain a provision which would deal with any kind of offensive or menacing emails, or which would circulate hate speech. But then today, as on date, that law doesn't exist anymore. So that is a very, very major lacuna which we really need to address at this moment. I really feel that the government should come out with an immediate advisory on this situation to deal with it.
Right. If I may ask you that, you know, to be fair, some initiatives have been taken. For instance, WhatsApp has come out with an advisory. They have listed out 10 points, sent out a full-page newspaper ad saying this is what the citizens need to do. So there is some effort to create awareness. Even on the part of the government, there is something that is called the Media Hub right now, which of course is trying to get greater control over online content. Then there is a civil society movement called Masuka, which is asking for a stronger anti-lynching act. So I believe we do not have anything specific to lynching, Karnika, at this point in time.
Yes, that's true. I mean, we really need some law to deal with this immediately. We may issue advisories, we may even sensitize people, you know, not to forward certain information which you don't feel is true. And there is a responsibility on the WhatsApp admin also now, that he needs to ensure that, you know, the messages which are circulating in his group are legal and they are trustworthy and they are verified before they circulate further. So the accountability, the transparency is now has to be a multi-pronged approach. It is a multi-stakeholder approach. Everybody of us, whether it's law enforcement or it's government or it's civil society, everybody has to join in hands and, you know, address this problem. It's not something which entirely one sector can take care of. It's the industry, also industry bodies, service providers, all need to take a kind of a syndicated effort to really combat this problem.
Right.
That's what I feel.
Mr. Wazir, you know, there is always a counter view now to every attempt or effort that is being made to restrict this problem. Because if you look at the government policy, the moment the government comes up with this policy of having a media hub, immediately there are voices saying, well, the government is being intrusive, there are privacy rights. And similarly, even for WhatsApp, there is again a counter opinion that says that, if you remove a certain, or if you empower these social media platforms to actually get more intrusive, then you lose your privacy. So from that point of view, again, how do we make sure, how do we strike that fine balance? Mr. Wazir.
Sorry, is this question
No, I was asking Mr. Sanam Sotirath Wazir if he can explain to us from the perspective of human rights or individual rights to privacy. Yes, go ahead.
I'll start with an example. So I definitely feel that, the community standards for, be it the social media platform like WhatsApp or Twitter, they need to be enhanced. But definitely we are not in favor of surveillance, because as what government is suggesting is, it'll be like, putting surveillance on the citizens, whereas this is the duty of, I'll give an example, my personal example. So I've put up a poster of my research on 1984 and other communal violence instances, and suddenly I've been trolled by massively on Twitter, where people are calling me jihadi, people are calling me anti-national, whereas I was demanding justice for my own people. I mean, all these people are Indian citizens, right? And suddenly when I report this to Twitter, I also brought this to the Delhi police notice as well, and I immediately reported it to Twitter as well, that I'm getting these kinds of threats, and Twitter immediately replies that this does not violate their community standards. So I think the problem is also that the social media platforms right now are very toxic, and our country has become a WhatsApp university, whereas without any verification, things just keep on happening. But on the other hand, if you suggest that we put surveillance on it, I think that will be like the complete invasion to the privacy of the private citizen's life. That's not a mechanism. That will be like government just washing away their hands of the situation. Okay, now, we will get all of that and we will start monitoring what people are doing. That is not the right way. That's not how government should function.
So there is a very tricky situation for the government. Yes.
Yeah, that's
because
correct.
They have to do a policy formulation keeping in mind the individual rights to privacy. Karnika, I want to focus on the incident that we are reporting today from Bidar, because let's keep our focus on what has happened today, because this is actually symptomatic of what has been happening all across. And therefore, we take up this issue time and again because, one has to keep emphasizing how dangerous the spread of fake news and fake messages can be. Karnika, in this case, in Bidar, there were 4 gentlemen who were very innocently distributing toffees to little children, right? And they were being suspected of being child lifters. People simply had this mere suspicion. They were stalked, they were hounded, they left from that location. They were, dragged out of their cars. Their car actually met with an accident, probably because they got so nervous seeing the bunch of people chasing them. And then after they met with an accident, they were dragged out of their cars and beaten up. Now, obviously, a message went out to the larger crowds. Immediately, within seconds, it spread like wildfire. Now, at what stage can we restrict a problem like this? Even if we look at the response time of the police, nothing much can be done because it spreads within seconds and a murderous mob gets galvanized.
You see, in villages there is Gram Panchayat, there are panchas there, and there are a lot of other support groups. I think if something like this is seen, somebody can at least start inquiring about why this person was talking to the kid, rather than just venting out their anger and killing people or just traumatizing them for anything. I mean, you really need to tell them that you can still inquire into things and it can be investigated. Their identity, their verifications can be made, and then once let the police handle this. Once the police is there, the support groups can be approached, the panchayats can be looked into, and then the people have phobia. They don't realize the news items which are circulating. From where is the verification there that this is a correct, even a correct statement that there are child lifters roaming around in their area? Has it been anywhere verified? It's not. It's all fake. So one has to be, people have to be made aware.
And
that
it's
yes,
going to be a
if
long
you
drawn
feel there is a
process.
scare
It
and you
cannot
have a
happen
suspicion,
overnight.
you should investigate it.
No, you're talking about
Yes,
this
it
this
cannot. It
long-term
cannot. Surely it
process of
cannot. But then-
sensitizing, informing, and empowering people with the right way
Yes.
to ascertain whether a certain message is true or fake. That process is going to take some time. So I
Yes.
want to bring in Mr. Brajesh Singh, IG of Cybercrime, who's joining us this evening. Good evening to you, Mr. Singh.
I just want to say something.
Right, very quickly. Yes.
Good evening.
Go ahead, Mr. Wazir, then I will go to Mr.
Community engagement
Singh.
is of course important. Yeah, so community engagement is important, but I would say that government needs to do something which is more symbolic, so that it's something which acts as a deterrent. Because if the ministers will keep on garlanding people who are lynching, so what do you think this will go? What message it takes back to the public? So
Right.
unless that stops, where government does something which is more symbolic, this will not stop, because community engagement is a large process. We are a country of 1.3 billion people.
Absolutely. So you are, of course, the elected governments have a responsibility.
As I
End
said,
of the day,
one thing I'd like to say.
right.
One thing I'd like to say here was that, the law that we're talking about, we definitely need an express law in the country which deals with this situation head on. But at the same time, one cannot, transgress the area and
Right.
violate
Let me bring
people's
in
privacy
Mr.
rights.
Singh on this,
So
because
I
he is
also advocate that it
actively
should
right
not
now
be-
dealing with the situation in Maharashtra. Is the IG of the Cybercrime Department. Mr. Singh, I want to know from you, like our other panelists have been telling us, that the government lacks policy. They lack a vision on how to deal with this problem. When you don't know what is the treatment, you are not able to treat the disease. So merely treating the symptoms and making few cosmetic changes are not helping. In terms of the police, tell us, is it that the police lack certain tools to deal with a murderous mob when it comes to cases of lynching where you need to disperse a mob frenzy? Do you feel that somewhere the police force lacks the paraphernalia?
It is very unfair to say that police either lacks vision or wherewithal. See, at one end we say that police should not have any access to, or government should not have any access to any communication on the grounds of privacy. On the other hand, we magically believe that police is coming to know everything that is happening. Right? See, rumor mongering is a contagious phenomenon. It has been seen in US in 2005 when Katrina hurricane broke there. Similarly, in China, rumors have led to loss of life and property. Now, this is like an epidemic disease. It's contagious. What is problematic here is that police comes into play when the incident has happened. There is no way you can get into these networks. They use a lot of anti-forensic methods, right? They delete, they do not keep data, they do not have any report abuse, they do not have any way of marking the content, which is there in more traditional and mature media. See, also you have to look at there has been a weaponization of mass media, weaponization of the social media. Look at two recent indictments by US courts. One regarding certain Russian agents, which came on I think 13th of July, and one which was about certain Russians which meddled with elections. So this social media and these messengers have been weaponized. Similarly, but when police wants to investigate them, when you go for any kind of data, these companies say that no, we are governed by GDPR, we are governed by US laws, we will not part with data. And also the process of getting this data is long drawn. Investigation is something where you just need this data immediately. So we have been talking of data.
So this is a very dangerous trend, and from what you just said.
So this will have to be deliberated.
Right. No, I was just picking up that point that you made, that all of this, much of this is premeditated. It is pre-planned, and another panelist, of course, also made this point that it's not true that it's always a spontaneous outburst. So then it's a greater danger, because then you could actually use this as a ploy to eliminate a lot of times, say, to settle scores or eliminate somebody who's inconvenient for you by the powerful people, isn't it, Mr. Singh?
Powerful or not, with my experience of law enforcement, I see that whenever there has been some local skirmish, there is 90% times there is always some kind of social media behind it.
Okay.
Some kind of social media behind it, or some kind of rumor behind it. So, rumor mongering, it happens, the way it happens is that people's attention is narrowed, and they are then looking for these clues, and then they react in a frenzy. Now, this cannot be previously known by police, right? In Maharashtra, we have given WhatsApp numbers everywhere, wherein people can confirm whatever, if they have any such information, if they feel is inflammatory. We have given WhatsApp numbers in every district where we have asked people to confirm this with the police itself. And police would promptly respond, saying that this is not true. Similarly, we have gone on a massive public awareness drive. We have put 1,000 hoardings, we have gone on radio, we have gone on TV. Our commissioners of police and superintendents of police have taken workshops in our district. Yesterday only, the chief minister himself took a workshop on fake news and rumors. He himself took a workshop on this. So we have been, about awareness, we are taking all efforts that are possible. But prevention, prevention cannot be done until and unless there are either technological measures or, legal measures which prevent these companies from allowing this contagion to spread.
Right. So you're saying that there is only so much that the police can do, and the prevention.
Want to make a suggestion here.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
May I make a suggestion? I wanted to say that there should be an authority which looks after what information we put online. Unlike the print media, which is governed by, we have PTI, you have PCI, and there are bodies who look into what kind of content is flowing. For the cinema, we have a Cinematographic Act. Then we have, a body, a censor board looks into what is the information which is being, shown in a film. Likewise, we need to have something for the online media. We don't have any kind of controls. Ministry of IT has no norms, no laws laid out for what is the kind of information which, has to be censored on online media as well. And there has to be a clear, I would say, body framed for that, who looks into it, scrutinizes it, alongside a express law, which not only deals in maybe fake news, but other kinds of online content which should not be there.
Right.
We have provisions, some provisions to deal with certain problems like child pornography or otherwise in the IT Act, but not for all problems.
But and right now the IND Ministry, Karnika, has taken an initiative to start something called the Social Media Hub. They are yet to completely formulate the exact policy, but some initiatives are being made. And also, to be fair to the police force, like Mr. Singh just told us, several initiatives have been taken by various state police forces in Maharashtra and in other states as well.
The point which I am trying to make here is...
Yes.
Yeah, but the point which I'm trying to make here is that no matter, there are steps being taken by the government, but we have to now see, like the Supreme Court has issued a notice to the center, to question the whether this will be violative of people's privacy rights.
Right.
And that's how we have to test it on the anvil of law after all. It
Some changes have happened for the sake of our viewers, because I'm running short of time, Karnika, I need to wind up. That police have arrested 32 people in the case of Bidar. The person, the administrator of the WhatsApp group, have been identified and arrested. The person who was shooting this entire incident also has been arrested. So clearly some amount of promptness is kicking in. Is the system waking up to this reality? Again, like I said, we have to treat the disease, because if you simply do the cosmetic changes, it is going to rear its ugly head from another corner of the country, like it has been happening. So there needs to be a mass movement and a collaborative effort, perhaps. I would like to thank all my guests for joining me this evening. And like we just discussed, that this requires a more holistic approach. Of course, mob lynchings are happening with an alarming regularity. Steps are being taken. How effective will they be in the long run remains to be seen. Thanks for joining us.